Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Machine learning is the field of study that gives computers the capability to learn from data without being explicitly programmed. Deep learning is a subset of machine learning that has networks capable of learning from data that is unstructured and unlabeled. To talk more about ML and DL and the applications of DL, we have with us an expert in the field of DL, Dr. Srinivasalu Reddy, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Applications, National Institute of Technology, Tiruchirappalli. On behalf of the Department of Computer Science, Indian Academy Degree College Autonomous, I extend a very warm welcome to our resource person, Dr. Reddy, who, in spite of his busy schedule, accepted our invite humbly to address the young learners and knowledge seekers. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, sir. I extend a warm welcome to Dr. Jerome Xavier, Principal, Indian Academy Degree College Autonomous in absentia, who has been very supportive to organize this webinar. Hearty welcome to all the faculty members, research scholars, and students. Welcome all to this webinar on applications of deep learning. Now, I request Professor Kavita to introduce our resource person. Over to you, Professor Kavita.
Dr. U. Srinivasalu Reddy received his PhD in 2013, Department of Computer Applications, National Institute of Technology, Tiruchirappalli, Tamil Nadu. He started his academic career as a lecturer in the Department of Computer Science, Bishop Heber College, Tiruchirappalli from 2003 to 2006. He started his research career as a full-time research scholar in the Department of Computer Applications, NIT, Tiruchirappalli from 2006. And then he joined as an assistant professor in 2008. His research interest lies in applying various artificial intelligence approaches to extract useful patterns from different facets of societal challenges of high demand with economic benefit. The main aim of his work is to develop machine learning and deep learning models for various domains like agriculture, bioinformatics, banking, telecom, and healthcare. With this motivation, he has established Machine Learning and Data Analytics Lab in 2015, and he is a core team member of the Center of Excellence in Artificial Intelligence established in 2020. His research team of 12 doctoral students, 10 post-graduation students are highly motivated and enthusiastic in working out to achieve better outcomes. For his credit, he has produced 3 doctoral till date and 10 post-graduation students annually. He has published more than 48 journal articles and conferences and 2 book chapters. He received Best Researcher Award in 2018 and Best Performer Award in 2019 from NIT Tiruchirappalli. 2 Best Paper Awards in international conferences. He received a full educational scholarship under residential care program from KNH, Germany, from schooling to masters. He received various research grants worth of rupees 127 lakhs from various funding agencies such as Indian Space Research Organization, Naval Research Board, Defense Research and Organization, Department of Science and Technology, and Department of Electronics and Information Technology. He conducted many national workshops, conference, and training programs. Dr. Reddy has delivered more than 40 invited talks in national and international conferences, workshops, and faculty development programs. He is a life member of the Computer Society of India and an annual member of ACM, IEEE, and Analytical Society of India. Now I request Dr. Srinivasalu to take over the session. Over to you, sir.
Good morning to all. Good morning, Anuradha Madam, Kavita Madam. It is my pleasure to be with you today morning and share my knowledge, what is I learned in machine learning and deep learning. Thanks for nice introduction. So I once again thank the organizers to invite me and share my experience in today's lecture with respect to machine learning and moreover deep learning and its applications. I will take 1 or 2 applications or maybe in healthcare and agriculture and some general application. I will give the details in coming lectures. Madam, can I share the screen?
Yes, sir.
Screen is visible, madam? My PPT, madam?
No, sir. No, sir.
Now, madam?
It's sharing. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's fine.
Okay, I'll start, madam.
Yes, sir.
So today I'm going to discuss about the applications of deep learning. Before getting into the deep learning, what is this deep learning? Why people are talking nowadays more about the deep learning and machine learning, artificial intelligence, whether this artificial intelligence is not there in the previous years. It was there in decades, right? 20 years back also there in 1950, the artificial intelligence has come. But why now the boom has come up? Why people are now again talking about the deep learning and machine learning with respect to artificial intelligence? So first I will give you the introduction about the artificial intelligence. What are the branches in artificial intelligence? So what are the different approaches we are following in artificial intelligence? Then I'll go little bit about the machine learning, then deep learning, its applications. That way I organized my talk. So let me tell this basic foundation for the artificial intelligence. 5 senses. Human has the 5 senses. How to mimic these 5 senses and the mission sense. How these missions will able to mimic these senses. Nowadays, a computer can see, right? Through webcam. Computer can listen. Siri and all, audio, video and all. See, this is a virtual classroom. Now you're able to see me. So how it is possible? Through webcam only, right? So computers also able to see. Surveillance cameras can listen whatever I'm delivering now. Previously we have a physical lectures. So I used to come to that college in Bangalore and I have to talk. You'll be sitting on the auditorium. Now see, you're able to listen my talk in sitting in various locations. So this is possible, right? Now it is that's why now everyone is speaking about the artificial intelligence. Now touch, computer can touch. All you have touch phones. So touch screen, right? Now computer can smell it. What is that smell, sir? Electronic nose, e-nose. People have developed a concept called as an e-nose. So where this can be smelled. Especially it has a lot of applications, that electronic nose. In a food grains, when you have a storage of the grains, there some insects may fall and spoil that grains. So how to detect that one? So as an you have to, as a physical, you have to go and verify to smell that one. Even food in food processing industry, e-nose is have a lot of applications. Whether it's food is meat is a fresh or a spoiled one, how to, it is any contamination happen in that meat or a stored food or maybe stored grains, there this electronic nose is very much useful. It in even insects in a crop, we have that insects, then it will evaporate some smell. So any spoiled food is there and maybe vegetables in home will get smell, right? So that automatically can detected by electronic nose. That is a one good applications, right? So that electronic, even e-tongue has been introduced. So these are all the foundations, are many applications where artificial intelligence is coming into the pictures. Why it is so popular? Because of the data available in nowadays, because we have huge data set is available. And 2003 onwards, everyone is generating the data. For example, you take yourself from morning to this 10:30, how many WhatsApp messages you might have forwarded? How many WhatsApp messages? So I have one slide, and maybe not in this PPT. 1 minute, how many videos, YouTube videos people are watching, right? That and all. So billions of YouTube videos. Due to this COVID, now the usage of internet has been exponentially increased. That and all handled by our computational power, limited in the previous years. Now due to the massive parallelism, GPU computing, now we are going again for the artificial intelligence. Right? So this is artificial intelligence. It is a branch. It is in a set. A subset is in a machine learning. among this specific approach is the deep learning. Today I am going to discuss about these two techniques. So what is actually artificial intelligence? It as making machine to be intelligent, studying our own tasks and solving very complex problems and novel problems and think like a human. So in Bangalore, one school, robot has been introduced to teach, right? So why now people who are human are bored by doing similar tasks, everyday routine tasks. So that it is wherever we feel bored in a routine task, that we make it as an automatic and ask the robot to help us. So humans are very good at thinking and developing a new thing, right? Not doing routine things. But in a mission, so always it is when it is trained and get trained and trained, practice makes perfect. So then it will do the same related to the similar task, focus on a computer to understand human intelligence. Right? So what is that human intelligence? That whatever we discussed, the 5 senses. Right? Now this artificial intelligence are divided into 3 branches, or 3 ways to approach. 3 approaches has been introduced in this artificial intelligence. The first approach is expert-based approach. Now, in olden days, we have an expert systems. What is that expert systems? A person who is expertise in a particular field, he is writing all the codes, and that means rules and regulations. If any new changes comes, then again he has to change that rule. So who is able to change that one? For example, previously GST was not there. Now GST. In medical claims, previously COVID was not there. We are not heard. Now we have to include in that medical claims. So our system, our expert system should adopt that dynamism in the process. So it is very difficult. Writing a entire each line by line that rule is very difficult to devise this thing. So that's why even though expert systems has developed for many applications, it has some limitations. That's why people are only stuck with that. Now, then they came to the intelligent approach. What is that intelligent approach? See this one. We have a human brain. Within our brain, we have neurons. Neurons are connected. How these neurons are exchange the information, all these things. So we, by nature, we got the intelligence. Now, how to make this intelligent to the mission? They developed it as one algorithm, famous algorithm is called an artificial neural network. This is the base for deep learning also. So neural network is working in our brain, right? If any one connection is not there, then we will become mad, right? Who is handling all these connections? Who is exchanging this information? That in a neuron, this is a basic entity, right? So how we are doing that? That and all, say this basic entity, neuron, by intelligence, by birth we got, God has given us to do that. So people are mimicking that our brain neuron functionality and developed the artificial neural network. In this, AN is a very powerful technique. This is an intelligent approach. So it has an input layer, hidden layer, output layer. So how we, if I ask some question in a class, a teacher asks some question, what he or she will think. So he will think something. If it is, then again she will think or he thinks whether it is correct or not. So they will hide that answer. They will not come up with an answer. Right? So that layer is called a hidden layer. Everyone in a human being, we have hidden things, right? So input and hidden, then output layer. Here, drawback is only we have one hidden layers in AN. So how to extend now real-time problems? We have very complex problems. So now go deeper into that layers. How many layers are there? Hidden layer here in ANN, one hidden layer. In a multi-perceptron layer, all that things. So now to increase go deeper into that is called a deep learning. A specific approach to deal with that. Okay. So that I will discuss later slides. Let's see this diagram. This is an evolutionary theory Darwin has developed, right? From this, what intelligence they they acquired, how gene heredity, right? Gene function. So here in ANN, basic entity is neuron. Here basic entity is gene. What is that gene? When you stretch the chromosome, we get a DNA, a segment of DNA which has the ability to produce the protein that we call as a gene. So gene has that heredity function, gene mutation, crossover, reproduction, all that things. So scientists has observed that one and developed one famous algorithm is called a genetic algorithm. Right? So how this has a lot of application, this genetic algorithm. Right? It is also an intelligent approach. Next one is an based on the bird's behavior and fish schooling. The people have developed one more algorithm is called an particle swarm optimization. So these two are algorithms, particle swarm optimization, another algorithm is an ant colony optimization. These two are called swarm intelligence because it works based on the group. So bird flying, right? Fish schooling, ants. So what is the beauty in ant? Even in Bible it says, you lazy fellow, go to ants and learn from them. There is no master for it, right? So small creature in the nature, but what do you learn from that? What intelligent an ant has? So always ant will take the shortest path, right? You agree with me? Always it take the shortest path. In childhood, we might have ants were going in line. We might have put the stick in between and to disturb that ant. You observe that initially it will go in a random, this side and that side. After some time, it will follow a shortest path. How it will happen? When the ant passes through, it will leave the some, what do you call, saliva, right? So that we in childhood we are thinking or we are discussing ants will talk, not talk, and it will smell that one, whatever it leaves that pheromone, right? So when more number of ants pass through that path, more number of pheromone has been released. So it will smell and it will go take that path. That principle, always they take the shortest path. After some time, more number of ants only go follow the one path. So all ants take that route only. In remaining this side and all, they'll not take it, right? That is an ant colony optimization. So there the evaporation rate also is there. So that pheromone rate we have to calculate, and it will work for n number of applications. These two algorithms and all these algorithms, whatever I discussed, these also called as soft computing algorithms. They are also called as a nature bio-inspired algorithms. They are also called as a nature computing algorithms, right? Because it has a lot of names, but principle, global optimization techniques. These two also called as a global optimization techniques. All are same, computational intelligence techniques. So these are the techniques, right? So another famous one is a fuzzy logic and fuzzy system. This is also works based on our human intelligence. How human brain is always fuzzy, right or wrong? So even in the morning after you get up, you might have registered yesterday or day before yesterday, then your mind says whether I have to take this lecture or not, what is any work and all. Your brain will not have an always ambiguous, not an unambiguous, right? Always uncertain, not in a certain, always unprecise, not in the precise manner. How to deal all these three things are using fuzzy logic and fuzzy system. So these are all the 5 important intelligence techniques in artificial intelligence. So first approach is expert based approach. Second approach is intelligence based approach. Today's class is learning based approach. What do you learn? Right? How do you learn? See, this diagram I will explain later. If you see this one, how the trend is going on, machine learning and deep learning trend, see, Google Trends. Right? Because it has, many people are now using machine learning, deep learning for different applications. So now what is that learning, sir? So you got my point so far? One approach is a expert based approach. Second approach is a intelligence based approach. Third one was only learning based approach. What do you mean by learning? Exactly what is the meaning of learning? The Herbert Simon says that learning denotes changes in the system that is capable of do the same task more efficiently for the next time. So once the why practice makes man perfect, right? If you do the same task again and again, right? Even in many cases, if you do the same practice, now why people might have think now why they want a cycle test or a model exam, all that things, why don't straight away keep the end semester exam? Why this cycle the pre-exams, there may be cycle test 1, 2, 3, assessment 1, 2, 3 are all preparing you to write, to do well in the main exams. That is the learning, right? Another definition for learning is learning constructing or modifying a representation of what being experienced. How do we construct ideas? How do we represent the same thing in a new manner, right? A new way. That is the whatever being experienced. For example, you want to take you want to go from one place to another place. Initially, we'll take the longest path or maybe well-known paths. So after some times, you know shortcuts, right? So in during exams also, we'll read all the topics. So before 1 day or 2 days, you will only do the important and we'll keep that one. We'll construct, okay, if this question comes, we have to write like this. If it comes, we have to write. So then depend upon the faculty, you will represent different way. So she will expect more thing to write, or he will expect only one sentence answer, so keywords. So depend upon the person, your learning capability will change. That way you will present. How you present that thing, or how do you construct, you have to write like this, you have to write like this, because you have been experienced while in a say, model assessments. CT1 maybe correction, maybe he might have told you have to write like this, you have to do like this. So that experience help you to do this, right? Another is learning is making useful changes in our minds. So what is now machine learning? Machine learning refers to a system capable of autonomous acquisition and integration of the knowledge. Now your college is autonomous college. What do you mean by that autonomous status? So your college can set its own syllabi and go for exams and conduct and give the results also announce, and it can changes, modification can do. How they'll give the autonomous status? So over a period of time, it acquired that capability. So it should not depend. Previously it was affiliated to Bangalore University or some universities, right? So now they get autonomous. Our machine learning algorithm should be autonomous. So you people or your students or your research scholar, and what you have to do, you have to acquire the knowledge. When you are going out of this institute for a corporate world, you have to work autonomously. So that capability, that is the learning, right? That mission should has that capability of work autonomously without depending on. Not only that, and also acquisition of integration of the knowledge. Now you have to integrate, because what to integrate, sir? In real world, so much of data is not in a structured manner. It is unstructured data. Now the data is, if you talk about that big data and all, it is again one lecture, right? So now everyone is having the word big data, big data. It has a lot of characteristics, volume, variety, and veracity, all that things. So now this big data, whatever the different forms it is coming, we have to integrate something and we have to streamline that. So that integration of the knowledge also is very important. So now the definition of a machine learning, simple definition is a system capable of autonomously acquisition and integration of the knowledge is the machine learning, right? So now this is the new definitions given. Author Samuel in 1959, a field of study that gives a computer the ability to learn without being explicitly programmed. That is the definition is given. That is the person who coined the machine learning term. The person who first introduce that machine learning. So what is that field of study that gives the computers ability to learn, what to learn, that being experienced, constructing, modifying, right, doing same thing, was the learning definition without being explicitly programmed. So always you should not tell do this, that, and all, right? It should learn autonomously. That is the thing, right? In Tom Mitchell provided some formal definition. Here 3 terms are very important. What is the 3 terms? First one is task. What is the task? Learn from experience some class of tasks and performing measures and experience. 3 terms, simple: task, performance, and experience. What is the task? So for here they given, for example, you are getting lot of Gmails, right? Now previously 3 years, 4 years back, Gmail have one inbox, outbox, and sent mail line. Now in inbox, again they classified. What is that? Primary, then social, then advertisement, all that things, labels are there, right? So now whether whatever the mail I'm getting is a spam mail or not, how to classify that one? That is the task. How do we measure that task? Whether it is correctly classified into primary mail or spam mail, right? So classification error is very, very less. Then there we use some performance metrics to evaluate that one. Then you test it. If your experience is good, then we leave it. Otherwise, again you will go, right? We are being experienced like that. So this is the thing here. Spam detection. What is the task? To recognize and classify emails into spam or not spam, and performance measures total percentage of being mails being correctly classified as a spam or not, right? Third one, what is the training experience? A set of mails that gives the label whether it is that is the problem, right? Now in like that, machine learning can be classified as a task, experience, and performance metrics. Okay, these are all basic definitions. Now you check this one. What is the difference between traditional programming and machine learning program? So far we are telling my machine learning program, traditional one, data will give the program, we will get the output. Data. What about in machine learning? We are getting the data. What will get here as an input? What is the output? So in machine learning, this output we are going to give as an input to this. Then what is that output? This program is come as an output. If you understood this one clearly, then our machine learning definition is clear. So what do we expect machine to do? That we are giving as an input to the our computer. Whatever the expectations we want. What is the expectation of Google Map? What do you expect from the Google Map? Showing the destination, source and destination, right? That output we are giving as an input, right? So then what it gives? It gives as a program as an output, code, right? That is the difference between traditional programming and machine learning programming. Okay, up to this clear? Any doubts? If you have any doubts or queries? If you have any doubts and queries, you can raise, or maybe in a chat box, you can no sir, I can proceed. Okay, now that what are the related fields one should know if you want to learn? Okay, Aravindan Kumar said yes sir, yes sir. Okay, no doubts. Okay, what are the related fields for the machine learning? Statistics, information theory, databases, data mining, and control theory, decision theory, evolutionary models, psychological models, neuroscience, and cognitive science. These are all some of the related fields which should be known when you want to be expertise in the machine learning? What statistics you will give? How do you analyze the results? Right? How do that data mining? How do you extract the useful patterns? Control theory, every field is a very important. Now databases, now modern databases are there, Cassandra, Neo4j and MongoDB, all these non-SQL databases, right? So relational databases in previous databases. Now evolution models, right? Control theory, now information theory, now we want to use a decision theory, decision tree. There we have an entropy concept, where it comes from, information theory only. What is the information content? All that things we can know, right? Not only these fields, you see this one. This is very, very, very important. A specialist domain knowledge is very important. Not only the mathematical, machine learning, coding skills, software and all this. We have to apply our machine learning algorithms to certain fields. So that field, that domain expertise is. That's why many people now have doing interdisciplinary research. That means combining. So you give the domain expertise, you specify the problem, and I'll give the solution. That way I'm getting some projects. So ISRO, all that thing. They are domain experts. I'm the technology expert. So in agriculture field also. So we are combining and doing the work, right? So what is the, when do you use the machine learning? Human expertise does not exist. Navigation and the mass. Human cannot explain their expertise in speech recognition, type of speech, how in Siri and all working, right? And models must be customized, personalized medicines. Models are being huge amount of data, genomics in a human genome project, 3 billion characters, how to find out the gene functionality, gene expression, all that things, right? So in a COVID also, what kind of transcriptional factors binds to exhibit this kind of behavior, all that things, where there we can use the machine learning, right? Now see, so after this machine learning and what is a related fields, that and all. Now very important is, what are the types of machine learning? There are 3 types of machine learning. One is supervised learning, unsupervised learning, other one is a reinforcement learning. What is a supervised learning, sir? Very simple to understand, to keep in mind. You need not to by heart or you need not to mug up and all. The supervised means it should has the target variables. Labels are defined, clearly defined. For example, now because we are all academician, I will tell in simple words to understand and retain for longer time, that supervised learning. Now, after exams, we'll get the marks and grades, right? How do we give the grades? A person get above 80, they are given S grade, and 80 to 70, A grade, B grade. Some different university has different patterns, A plus, B plus and all. How we know? Already grades are defined. We know the targets. If one student comes, his marks, you put based on these marks, these grades. So if labels are known, targets are known, then it is called as supervised learning. If that labels are not defined, are not known, then you go for unsupervised learning. So here the problem comes here is in a supervised learning, clustering classification is the problem in a supervised learning. Classification and clustering are 2 problems. For example, in computer science, sorting and searching are the 2 fundamental problems. There are not techniques, there are problems. We have to sort the given elements. We have to search an element in the given list. So to do this process, we are having different approaches, different techniques. That techniques is called as sorting techniques or searching techniques. Binary search, interpolation search, linear search, all that things. Here, bubble sort, quick sort and all. Here also, classification and clustering are the 2 problems. To do that one, we are using the different classification techniques and different clustering techniques. So when do you say this classification is good classification? We have to have that is the task. Classification is the task. Then we have to have a performance measures. What is that performance measures? When we have a classification, that means classification error is very, very less. For example, you take this one, this one and this one, and another this, this. Can anybody say which one has the more classification error, less and more in chat? Which one is correctly classified? Which one is correctly classified? They have 3 diagrams, 1, 2, 3. Out of these 3, which one is correctly classified, which has the more classification error and less classification error? You take this one is an A, B and C. Which one? A, B, C. Which one? Puneet said C. Why? And 7 says write down, good. And Asha Rani said C. Why? Why? Any reason? So because here no overlapping, you see this overlapping is there. Here lot of overlapping is there. Now here no overlapping, right? 2 distinct classes. See no overlapping. Good. Vignesh said, right? So that is the performance metrics. How do we check this overlapping? Right? So that way we will do the classification. It has a lot of classification technique. Naive-Bayes classifier is there. Logistic regression is one classifier. KNN is one classifier. Then SVM is one classifier. KNN, K nearest neighborhood is one classifier. Decision tree, random forest, ADA boost, and bagging. All these are all different classifiers. So our aim here is to correctly classify 2 distinct classes or 3 distinct classes or multiple. Their classification comes under binary classification or multi classification. Here only we are using binary classification, 2 classes. Then we go for multi classification. How do we measure that classification? What are the metrics used in this classification? So very important. So Arvind also said, okay, good. Because more overlapping in A and B compared to C. So C is the more accurate. Good, sir. So that way we can get the classification, right? So for that, what are the metrics we use, sir? For do the classification? Performance measures. So most widely used metrics are, what are the metrics? Confusion matrix. From that confusion matrix, we calculate the precision, recall, F score. Okay. After that, we will use the AUC, area under the curve. Then ROC. What is that AUC, sir? AUC is an area under the curve. Now we have a distribution. We have a distribution. Whatever this we called, what we called this one, and what we call this one. This thing. This is called an area of rejection. This we called as an area of acceptance. So our classification should be area of acceptance. So how much area under this curve is calculated by using AUC? What is ROC? For example, you take this one. Now if we are coming and ROC comes like this, after this. These are the number of instances. If you, for any problem, you take the number of instances, even for at a particular place, you will get a value is 1. After this, you increase any number of instances. That means any number of samples you add into that. So it will give the same answer. That is saturated. That means it is enough if you train your model up to this many samples. Here in machine learning, there are 2 types of things. One is a training data and test data. What is the training data? Training data contains the labels, right? Test data will not contain any target variables or labels. So training will give there we will do a 70% as for training, 30% as for testing. In some cases, every sample in the data set should be trained and tested. For that we use the k-fold validation to do that one. So there here we use the ROC. Any number of samples you use, after that the results is get saturated. After that it will not. So if that ROC value gives 1, then it will good classifier. Otherwise we'll take again we have to retrain and do that one. So here another important problem is there, overfitting and underfitting in classification. What is that overfitting and underfitting? Now you have a minimal samples and we are trained more, then it will get an underfitting. If you have large samples and we keep on training, that will has the possibility of getting underfit, overfit. So how to handle this one? So we have to balance that things. So if you have small data set, then you can use the data augmentation and do it. Right? So we have a huge number of samples. Then what you have to do? There we have to use some technique is called as a dimensionality reduction. Dimensionality reduction technique. What is the dimensionality reduction technique, sir? We have dimensionality reduction is not removing some of the samples. Some Pawan Kalyan has said why we should take 70% for training, 30% for testing. We can give manual inputs for train and test. Known, sir. We can give, but if we don't know how many, because always we'll give the more importance for training. For example, here in machine learning, data set is very less, then we can go for it. But in a deep learning and all, the data set is used. How do you train it? So some have an 80 to 20. Then k-fold validation. Every 10 samples they shuffle. First 70 they'll keep as a training, then 30 for testing, or 80 for training, 20 for testing, or 90, 10, or maybe sometimes 60, 40, right? So depend upon your problem, you have to choose. And you do the training and testing, right? So every sample should, if it is good, if every sample is trained and tested, that is a good practice. Okay. You got, I think you got my point. Okay. Then what is the dimensionality reduction? So what are the two important techniques in dimensionality reduction is PCA and LDA, principal component analysis and discriminant analysis. These are very important to do that dimensionality reduction, right? In clustering, we have an n number of clustering techniques, partition based and grid based, density based and hierarchical based clustering. Here, what are the similarity measures here in clustering? Is a cosine similarity, Manhattan, Hamming distance, all these are the performance measures in the clustering. Based on that performance measures, the clustering performs well. When clusters are good clusters, here we say classification or good classification. When do you say these clusters are good clusters? For example, you take this diagram. Three clusters, and data points in this are so from that, when do you say clusters are good clusters? Netravati said, kindly share the PPT, we will share, madam. When do you say this good clusters? Anybody? When do you say these are good clusters? When do you say that these are good clusters? When we have an intra-cluster distance and inter-cluster distance. Intra-cluster distance should be maximum, inter-cluster should be minimum. Then it is called as a good clusters. Okay, you got the point? So whenever you do that one, intra-cluster distance should be intra-clusters based on the distance. Good. Then we can get more intra-cluster distance. That means intra-cluster distance should be intercluster should be maximum, intra-cluster should be minimum. Then only we will have a good clusters. So now you got the supervised and unsupervised. Here regression also is there, that will use for prediction. Lot of regression techniques are there: linear regression, logistic regression, and multiple linear regression and all, right? So Chitra Ravi also said cluster maximum, intra-cluster. Good, madam, good. And Savannah minimum, all are answered, right? Okay. Now, what is the reinforcement learning? Third is very important. What is the reinforcement is, it works based on the reward and penalty based. Reward and penalty. So as a child learns, when he gets, Pawan Kalyan said, what is the difference between intra and inter cluster, sir? So what is, so cluster, this is cluster 1, this is the cluster 2. This is an inter, from this cluster to this cluster distance should be maximum, so that these points, whatever the points are there here and here, will not go into this cluster. That is away from that. So intra, within the cluster, that is simple to understand, within and among. Within and among, right? Within cluster, points distance should be minimum, so that all have the similar features. Among the groups, the distance should be maximum, so that they will not move from one group to another group. You got that point? Pawan Kalyan, you got the point? Okay, thank you. Understood, right? Now reinforcement learning is that one, right? So in this, which one is supervised, which one is unsupervised, which one is reinforcement? First one is supervised, this is unsupervised, and this is a semi and all. So I will tell that what is that, this one, reinforcement learning. Come here. So this is the reinforcement learning. First it will observe. For example, everyone is experienced reinforcement learning. Now we are purchasing an online, right? So Google Pay and all. If you do that Google Pay, they'll give the reward points. First 2, 3, 4 transactions. After that, if you scratch that cards, they'll say better luck for the next time. So that is, now to attract the customers, first they'll give the rewards. Even if you spend your ATM card, the debit card in ATM machines are purchased and all, you will get some reward points. So this reinforcement learning works based on this only. First observe the environment, select the using policy. This is the agent. Now it is having two options. One is here fire, another one is fire, another one is in water. If it touch fire, you'll get the penalty. Touch the water, you'll get the reward. So update the learning part. For example, if first it touches the fire, it has a bad experience. Next time you'll avoid. And again, it will update the learning policy till it get the optimal. Right? It has vast applications. Very good number of applications, reinforcement learning. Now deep reinforcement learning. So now in last week I wrote one proposal for ISRO, how to use deep reinforcement learning in a liquid rocket engine, in that transit control. How to control the transit state by using deep reinforcement learning. Very good problem, right? And a good approach. So in clustering, we are having a partition based clusters. There we use the k-means. This is very important. So what is the k here? Number of clusters. If you know number of clusters well in advance, you go for k-means. If you don't know that, then you go for hierarchical clustering. There we have a divisive, then alternative, all that things. Here 5 points are there. These are the initial centroids, that mean values. Then you have to calculate the distance. So whichever comes closer, then put into the cluster 1. Whichever comes closer to the second, then put into the minimum value. Then do that one. Again, you update the initial centroid values till there is no change in the centroids. That means if centroid values are not changed, means all points are not moving from one cluster to another cluster. So that way K-means algorithm. Here only two groups, they are combining and calculating and doing into a group. Right? So these are the some of the supervised learning techniques: decision tree, SVM, random forest, and neural network, ANN, artificial neural, logistic regression, KNN, all these things. Okay, if this random forest, AdaBoost, Boost, and bagging algorithms also called as ensembled classifiers. What do you mean by ensembled? For example, you take decision tree, one classifier, you combine number of decision tree, it become a random forest. Right? So that is a ensembled classifiers. So these are the some of the applications, everyday application for machine learning, recommending the books and identify the faces and expressions. Okay, and identify the vocal patterns and credit card fraud detection. These are the some of the examples. Right? Now, up to this we have seen machine learning. Now see this one, whether it is a lab rat or what is this one? Okay, fried chicken. How do you differentiate? Can you classify? For example, see this one, puppy or Bengal. See the next one, shepherd dog or mop. See this one, muffins are that dog name, some name, right? Bowl or apple. How do you change? See these diagrams. So it is with help of machine learning, it is very difficult because it has to extract number of features. In machine learning, there is a process. One, we have to define the problem, then get the data set and do the pre-processing and extract the features and apply and give for the train the model and give for learner. So here in the machine learning, biggest challenge is how to extract the features. So if I am an expert in that domain, I will extract the good features. If my features are not good and giving the same features for the model, then garbage in, garbage out. Right? So to handle these things, for example, here how many images are there? Training images 50,000, testing 10,000. How many categories? 10 categories. These are the 10 classes, 10 labeled classes, right? Whether this machine learning can be handle these things? No. There we are going for deep learning approach. Here we are going for deep learning approach. What does the deep learning means? Neural network which has several nodes between input and output. Series of layers between input and output do the feature identification and processing in a series of stages. So in deep learning, we need not to extract the features. The algorithm itself extract the features, just as our brain seems to. Right? See the human analogy. And because of that GPU, initially I said, because of the massive parallelism, GPU, NVIDIA, the GPU cards, that deep learning has been more popular. When compared to that human brain, 10 to the power of 11 neurons. Here GPU 8 into 10 to the power of 12 operations per unit. So now, sir, question arises. So even multi-layer neural network are there for 25 years. What is the new in it? The learning rate, how it will learn is a very important. What actually new? See this one. Why GPU matters in deep learning? With a CPU, without GPU, how much time it is taking? This one. If you use GPU in parallel, it work and it is getting only 27.1. Okay, and every set of weights can be stored as a matrix. So when you represent the data in a matrix format, computation is very easy. GPU are made to do common in parallel problems in faster manner. So each core it will work in parallel and do that. All similar calculation and do the same time, extremely boost the performance in a parallel computation. That's why people are using GPU computing in everywhere, even in laptops and everywhere now they're using GPU cards. So what exactly this one? Deep learning. So here algorithm only with one hidden layer, input layer. But these algorithms are not good for at learning the weights and neural networks, more hidden layers. So when the number of hidden layers increased 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what is the new in that? Right, that because of these hidden layers, new is learning algorithms for training many layers in the network. But in a ANN are not like that. So see this one difference between machine learning and deep learning. A person is sitting extracting the all features. If this person do any mistake, if he does any mistake, then same features are given for classifier and we will get the wrong output. But in deep learning, feature extraction plus classification, both algorithm itself it does. So these are some motivations why we are using deep learning. Here in machine learning, what are the types we have seen? Supervised, unsupervised, reinforcement. Like this, in deep learning also we have different models. What are the deep learning models are? One is a CNN, convolution neural network. For example, you see this slide, it will understood. One is a deep neural network. Second one is a convolution neural network and recurrent neural network. What is this deep CNN? When we use, sir? When we use supervised learning, when target values are known. When you want to do the classification, then we go for supervised learning. When you want to group it, we go for clustering. When we want to work based on the reward and penalty type, then based on the experience, then we go for reinforcement. Like that, here provides a lift for classification and forecasting. This deep CNN work for classification as well as in a forecasting. In convolution neural network, only used for image classification, image type of classification. When you come to the recurrent neural network, sequence of events, language models, time series, for that and all we're using. Now, what is the more advanced in this? What is the beauty in these models? Already deep learning models we have to construct. Then we have to take, see here, all these are feature extractions. Then we have to do the classification. There so many hidden layers are there. Then we have to do the mini batch sizing and convolution layer and dropout layer. What is the pooling layer? All the things we have to construct. Then we have to change the softmax layer classification. Here many people are using now machine learning to do the classification. Deep CNN with SVM, deep CNN with logistic regression, and also they're hybriding the techniques. Now, constructing these deep learnings are very, very important. So it will take a lot of time to train your model. And once it gets trained, then testing is very easy. So people are thought for training and for every model for our applications, it is difficult. So what they did know, they developed another concept in a deep learning sub-branch is transfer learning. What is the transfer learning, sir? Already they have pre-trained model. For example, in CNN, we have a pre-trained models, that transfer learning models like ImageNet, GoogleNet, ResNet, VGG16, InceptionNet, all are called pre-trained models. What do you mean by pre-trained models? Or what do you mean by training transfer learning models? These models, this network already been trained for a particular application. Then how it will be useful for my data? You need not to start again constructing the all layers from the scratch. It is enough if you change the higher layers. If it is enough, you change the upper layers. That is here. maybe softmax layer, all that things, it is enough if you change it. Then your model will work better. That is where the name comes transfer learning. For example, simple to understand that transfer learning. Now once you move from a school education to college, they'll give TC. TC, expansion for TC is transfer certificate. What it contains, what information it contains, already completed the schooling education. It is enough if you teach above that schooling education. For example, degree to PG, degree to post-graduation. So already I completed degree courses. Then it is enough if you teach the post-graduation above it. So it is enough if you change the upper layers, right? That is the transfer certificate. Like this, these models are very useful nowadays. If you want to do research in this, go for transfer learning, use the transfer learning for your application, do some hyperparameters tuning, then change the upper layers according to your problem, then it will be used. So these are all some transfer learnings available in a CNN. In RCNN, what is that RNN, right? In RNN, recurring neural network, LSTM, long-term short-term memory, that is the one pre-trained model available in RNN. So that models you can utilize and do that. Not only these models, one more models are AE. What is that? Autoencoders and GAN, generative adversarial network. So these autoencoders again has many variations. Variation autoencoders, all that things. GAN to identify the fake images, fake news, fake data, to generate that fake these things, right? Then they're using GAN networks. So that GAN network, autoencoders, and RNN, CNN, and DCNN, all these are all the different models, 5 models used in a deep learning. So these are small difference between deep learning and machine learning. It requires a lot of data. Accuracy, provide high accuracy deep learning, and less accuracy training takes longer time to train, lesser time. Hardware dependency, GPU, here CPU, and hyperparameter tuning can be tuned in a various different ways, but limited in a tuning capability. These are some of the deep learning packages available. Okay, then up to this clear. Now this is a small network and an input to 2 layers. So these are all very, very important. That activation functions, linear sigmoid and ReLU, TAN, softmax, many deep learning models use ReLU. So this is the combination of inputs and weights. We'll get it. So take this example, this a deep learning example. Now we have a data set. These are the classes. How many classes? 4 classes here, telling 2 classes, either 0 or binary classification. Now we take this data set, 1.4 here, 2.7 here, and do how to train this one. Now what are the initial weights here? W0 biased and W1, W2, we don't know. In pre-trained models, already they trained it and will get the optimal weights. That optimal weights are available in our net. So that if you can utilize it. Here this is a new model. Now I have to train this model. So take the initial values and take the weights as this weights, some initial weights, and I'm getting the initialize the random weights. I'll assign some random weights for these inputs. What output I'm getting? 0.7, but I supposed to get 0. Now my error is there. Now how to, after comparing this, again I have to tune these weights. How to tune these weights? Adjust the weights based on the error. So repeat this 1,000 times, maybe some millions of times. Each time taking random training instant and make slight weight adjustment. Algorithm for weight adjustment are designed to make changes that will reduce the error. My error should reduce for iteration to iteration. Then it has to reach it has to get a 0. But what is my error rate here? 0.7. Now next time 0.5, next time 0.3, 2, like that it has to reduce so that it reach the 0. Right? For example, This you take this same data set, accuracies. For human, 94% it is able to find out whether it is airplane, automobile, bird, cat, all that things. If the K means algorithm, machine learning, only 80%. While applying deep CNN, we are getting 95.5%. Okay, so that is the power of deep learning. So now what is the deep learning model, how it will work? What are the layers are there? First is convolution layer. Each image portion we are taking, right? This is the input image, convolution output. What is that convolution layer in that? Filters work on every part of the image. This is one filter. This is another filter. This is another filter. Like that you take all filters, right? From this, it is one point. Now you move this one, this filter. Therefore, searching for same feature everywhere in the image. After taking this convolution, then you go for pooling. What is that pooling? Pooling are asking min pooling, max pooling, average pooling, right? So here max pooling usually represent after convolution layer, it provides a downsampling of the convolution. Here whatever is the maximum from this convolution, here 1 point, 2 point, 3 points are there, right? So from this, whichever, if you go for max pooling, whichever maximum value you take it. If it is a minimum value, then min pooling, whatever minimum value you can. If you have an average pooling, then you have to take average of it, whichever gives that one, that you have to take it. After that, so once you take every part of the image and you train, you have to adjust the weights. How to adjust the weights? Whatever is not known to us or whatever is not beneficial to us, not known, beneficial to us. That means it is not giving the, what is our aim? You have to reduce the error. Suppose it is not being reduced when giving new weights, then what to do? You retain that old weights and new weight can be dropped out. Right? So randomly drop units along with their connections during the training. It helps to learn more robust features by reducing the complex co-adaptation of the units, and it will evaluate overfitting issues as well. So whatever, now come here and here weights we are adjusting. This, after adjusting these weights, this error should reduce. If it is not reduced, then what you have to do? We have to remove that weights. If it is reduced, then you can retain that weights. So there we will use the dropout. After dropout, then these are the fully connected. Dense. Each node is fully connected to all input nodes. See there. Each node computes weights, sum of all input weights. It has a one-dimensional structure. It helps to classify the input pattern with a high level of features extracted in a vectors. Here, now we are bringing down into the visualization, right? 9 dimension to 2 dimensions. So we are reducing the dimensions to see. Here all convolutions we are taking, then doing the pooling, then drop out, then use the fully connected. These are the sum of layers which we can do while talking about the deep learning. Right? So when up to this clear, any doubt in this? Next I will go for applications. Be in 10 minutes or sir, any doubts in this? If you have no doubts, okay, no sir, Kiran said. I'll proceed for application. Pooling is like a dimensional reduction, sir. No, madam, pooling is nothing but you are taking maximum or minimum. Okay. No doubt, sir. Punita, madam, pooling is not a dimensionality reduction, madam. Dimensionality reduction is something is fully connected. From that we are visualizing now. That is a dimensionality reduction. Mala, no doubt, sir. Okay, no doubt. Okay, thank you, madam. I'll go for applications. I think you understood up to this. So I'll go for some of the applications. So if you do that one application, I will take medical, and other one is an thank you, madam. Thank you. Thank you. Then we'll go for application biomedical. I will take because nowadays due to this COVID and all, right, many people are working in biomedical and healthcare applications, and I will take another agriculture. Then I will do some how deep learning can be used for these two applications. From this graph, you can see biomedical as an increasing data. So what are that biomedical data? So if you see machine learning algorithm for biomedical applications, they are doing tremendous changes in this. So for human body is the rich source for the biomedical. Everything from human body only they are taking, right? So it has a mix, and this I will skip one. I will come to this. See this one. Biomedical. Our body has a source for big data, healthcare data, right? Because how many then a brain, right? And X-rays and TB that and whatever that medical reports, all these things we are taking from our human body only. So whatever these things it can represent as a medical imaging, inpatient health monitoring and examination, patient generate health data, laboratory results, all these are the big data. Now come to the smart healthcare devices, how much each device is generating, ECG, all that healthcare devices. It is a source, our human body is a source for big data. What are these types? What are the algorithms can you use? So now types of data: numerical, text, image, video, speech, signals. What is the healthcare data? Blood reports, medical test, medical report, X-ray, CT, MRI, ultrasound, doctor, technicians and all. Pre-processing steps, normalizing the data, encoding, word to this, term frequency, all that things. Image normalization when you take this one. Then CT, MRI, slice frames, image level pre-processing, speech to text conversion, and signal to vector. For DL based healthcare is and classification, all we are doing. Automatic report generation, then summarization of the medical reports, because medical reports are used when admitted in the hospital. They'll give the book, this much of book, then discharge summary, only summary they're giving. It is a routine task. If you go when you are have experience in hospitals, so most of the time nurses duty is to write reports, full reports, what they ate and all. It is routine thing. So that we can do automation with help of deep learning and machine learning, and segmentation, capturing all these things. So now you see, what is the difference between for in healthcare, in medical research, what is the traditional approach and machine learning approach? So in traditional approach, data is in a low dimensional and structured data. That's why we are using SQL, structured query languages. When you come here, we set the hypothesis. When we come to the AI and ML and DL, there is no hypothesis. It doesn't matter. Data is high dimensional data, unstructured data. Many times, 80% of data presented is unstructured. Electronic health records, ECG, medical images, all these things, they are only structured data in traditional approach. Here, in so many devices, even sensors, glucometer, all these things, right? Now, wearable sensors are very, very useful nowadays, right? And all these are giving unstructured data. So how to process this unstructured data? Here we analyze and use the statistics and get the results and validate the hypothesis. Again, here chicken and egg problem, but here not like that. We have to do the analytics. Here, that analysis, what is the difference between analysis and analytics? Making useful decision, right? So there we predict the new data and identify the hidden patterns and learn the best actions. That is the difference, right? From this to traditional to machine learning. Now, in machine learning, so this supervised learning, already we know whether this the labeled data is provided. If a labeled data set is provided, then you go for supervised. If not, no labeled data is provided, to output is unknown, then you go for unsupervised, right? Based on the trial and error with a reward or a punishment before prediction. That means whether this drug have a side effects or not. So how do now for COVID, they're doing trials. If it is working fine, then good. Otherwise, waste, right? For that, we will use the reinforcement learning for trial and error, right? So that we do all, see how they train the data set which is known and test train, then evaluate the model with the test data, apply our model and see when it is in a class 1 or class 2 type of cancer or not. Here they're grouping, here only see if we, within this distance should be minimum, among this distance should be maximum. Now what is in a reinforcement learning? Choose the action. If it is a drug is no side effects and all, it is reacting properly, yes, then we can choose that one. Otherwise, again we have to do the process. Right? For example, for this is a well-known problem in machine learning, deep learning. Many people are working on this initial stages. So it has a 699 samples and 458 non-cancerous and 248 malignant. So here benign tumor and malignant, right? So how to do this one? For this we have 7 steps. First step is to dividing the data set, whether 30 to 70, right? And defining the metrics, what type of metrics we are using. Then evaluating the models, then creating the new neural network and evaluating the quality through ROC, receiver operating curve, that is ROC graphs. Then evaluating quality through precision recall and visualizing the decision boundaries. That Punita madam said, right, that pooling layer is not doing for dimensional reduction, only visualization. Here in deep learning, data dimensional reduction is not doing with the big data. But in deep learning, we are using dimensional reduction to visualize the features. Because 2D, it is good to view. But in a 3D, 4D, 9D and all, it is very difficult to visualize. For that, we are using PCA to do this one. So these are simple steps to follow to do this one. Okay. First, we have to divide the data set and define the metrics, evaluate the model and creating the model, then go for a ROC curve and precision recall, then visualize these are the 7 steps. Now, even you go through this video link is also given, skin cancer classification with the deep learning. The Stanford University, they're doing research on this. So whether nowadays, due to climate changes and all, many people are exposed to get that skin cancer type. So they're using this images. That image set is very less. So what they're doing, data augmentation, then they're doing pre-processing, then they're applying the deep learning models to detect. It has small video in that you can go through it and can have a more deeper understanding how they are doing. This is the image. Then they are constructing the neural network, convolution layer they are doing. And again, what we have studied, pooling, average pooling, max pooling they are doing, then concatenation, dropout layer, and fully connected. These are the things I explained previously, right? Previous slide, softmax. Then they are doing whether it is as a cancerous or not cancerous, what type of. After that, how much it has been affected that screen area, that also you can do. Quantification also can be done, right? So another work we did in the same skin type, machine learning approaches for what treatment selection, prominence and accesses, that we submitted in the journal Network Modeling and Analysis of Healthcare and all. So it has been accepted in 2020. So what we did here is, these are a type of WATs, right? So common WAT and filiform WAT and plat and plantar, all these things. This data set is available here, and to treat this one, there are n number of treatment methods are there. Among these, immunotherapy, cryotherapy are the best. Why this best? To remove these WATs. So because it leads to some complications, right? So our aim is to implementing machine learning approach for effective selection, to select the effective methods of what treatment methods. So we used this machine learning, naive based and SVM bagging boosting. We got the good results. These are the metrics we used, and we compared to these results, we got a good, and by using our own method. So FRFS naive based we got 96%, and COT we got a 97%. Okay. Now, madam, I'll play this video if you can see, you're able to see this video.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you have watched this video.
Yes, sir.
One madam asked some questions. Savani, KNN algorithm is used only in deep learning or it can be used in a simple ML. KNN is a classifier used for machine learning. You want to do any classification in deep learning. After feature extraction, if you go for classification, then you can go for KNN also. Okay, you got my point? KNN is an ML classifier. So you want to hybrid with the deep learning also, it is possible. So how is this video? From this video, can you get any learning techniques or any, you can use ML and DL techniques? Can you formulate any problem, any task in this? We have studied 3 things, na? See this. User activity recognition in smart homes using cluster applied, pattern clustering applied to temporal ANN. Now, like that, not only watching from this, how do you identify the problems? Even moisturize levels, when that girl will go and plug some plant fruits and all, no? Their moisturize levels and all, that monitoring. And security, that QR code, it will access and person will go inside and do the cleaning and all. That notification, alert system, all these things in a smart home, smart cities, right? So a lot of applications are there in a computer vision, how deep learning can be applied. Simple example like that, you can take any good examples and apply the deep learning models. Madam, how much time it is there, madam? In 10 minutes or
10 minutes, okay, sir.
okay, madam.
Okay.
Okay, madam. So this is the smart home environment. So what they are doing here, smart home is there, smart home environment. So monitoring using different sensors. So we apply the machine learning, whether supervised or unsupervised, and use the detection algorithm activity or here an activity only, their moisturize levels or security level, all that thing. Then do the data analytics, decision making, then give caregiver, right? Who is in old age homes, and Lilly one app they developed in Singapore for elderly people, how to monitor the elderly people activity, because here only kids, there in elderly people, both we are working and parents are in home. What is their activity? Any abnormal activity is there, notification has come. So here in smart home also, when the 2 children are fighting in the bedroom, that notification go to the mom, right? That mother. So she can identify what happened. For older people or the aged people, they can have a normal routine life. If you have any abnormal activity, if they have a smartphones with them or maybe a phone, so with that smartphones and mobile phones, we can monitor their activity. That also possible. These are the things there in detail explained. You have that paper also in it is open source. You can get and do that one. Here data set is given, timestamp, sensor ID and sensor date. Then they are doing raw data and pre-processing, then applying the pattern growth and do the model activity prediction, whether it is a normal and abnormal behavior. So like that, they are doing this process. For this, they are using different algorithms and with they compared with the different methods. Okay, and these videos are not there. I will go with another application. This and all you might have seen. Okay. See this. What is this one? Physical branch, right? So many devices, sophisticated physical object, medical devices. So with this medical devices, we can monitor human life, right? So many medical devices are there to monitor us. Right? Even see this one. So for example, a person is running, right? So Fitbit and all, with that we have a smart healthcare system for research device and point of care devices, and problems faced is no real-time data for critical care and drug disease, lack of smart care devices, inaccurate standard and analytics. So these data is collected and given to this, right? So now here where storage is there, it will process and give back to the decisions, training, coaching, chronic or social network, healthcare, health informatics, everything they'll give, telemedicines. Right? So this is the process in a smart healthcare. What it will do? First data acquisition, sensing, and it will transform into analog to digital, then data concatenation and cloudlet processing, where the data is stored and do that thing. Then through that, here we are using machine learning and deep learning to process it. Okay, after that we'll visualize. So doctor will give all bidirectional only. Here the patient body area network, from that they are sensing and transmitting and cloudlet. Then here in cloud, there our whatever useful information is want to extract, that only will extract by using machine learning, deep learning, data analytics. Then we visualize it with this extracted data, and the doctor will diagnose and give his input, and it will go and reach the patient. So this automatically happening. So no need, if you have this, we have connected to the, our body is connected to the different sensors, it will collect the data and it will send to the doctor. It will again give back to us, right? So now Google Watches, Fitbit, all that things it is happening, right? So like that, now making convenient to the user, or this is not replacing the doctors, but it is only assisting the doctors. Okay, so here care bots is a very important robotic surgery and all. This may be, this video and all can be found out from this YouTube link is also is given, so that you can take it. So growth of drivers for AI in healthcare, same thing, whatever I explained in the previous slide, same thing, right? So here what a doctor expert is sitting, now case from the hospitals. So they have collect all this data and send to the server cloud. Then patient surgery is required and all. So then doctor will send the notification according to whether it will go for a surgery or not. So cloud databases and all they're using and do this process. So see here, in continuous shortage of here, increasing individual healthcare experts, larger generic population, imbalance between health workforce and patients. So increasing global healthcare expenditure. So because of this situation, COVID, now continuous shortage of the nurses and technical staff. The number of vacancies for nurses will be 1.2 million by end of 2020. So they're using AI is helpful in a medical practitioner efficiently achieve their task with a minimal human intervention, critical factor for meeting increasing the patient demand. This COVID situation, so these applications, why we are studying, why we are learning deep learning, machine learning, all that things, we have to integrate it, we have to apply in a different domain and do that process. That way it will definitely help you in a coming years. So the same process, how this will work. So for glucose levels in blood, how they are doing, this is the data, patient's data, then what data they are doing, and strategy 1 they are using, strategy 2, then data from individual patients, then they are training these transfer learning, deep learning models and predicting data. So this is a one recent paper, new machine learning methods for image-based diagnosis of COVID-19. How they are doing? So they are starting chest X-rays, they are taking feature extraction, they are doing, they are using a multi-core CPUs. Instead of multi-core, now you can use the GPUs, deep learning. Take the chest X-rays and without extracting the features, you give to the deep learning. They are using that feature extraction using One madam asked KNN can be used for prediction. For prediction, COT is the best. Classification, prediction. Okay. KNN only do the classification. And evaluating KNN classifier. So these can be replaced with the deep learning models. Then they extract the features from the deep learning, transfer learning. Then if a COVID images have that flume or something, yes, positive case, no means negative case. This way we can, whatever the learning happened in the machine learning, that we are adopting and constructing, reshaping and modifying it to our own use. So now instead of this machine learning, you can use for the deep learning models here. So that way you can improve that. So these are some of the issues in an Indian scenario for if you go to the medical domain. So collaboration and IPR and funding, current status of medical records, and data is not being captured in real time. Then integration, all electronic medicals and healthcare, all different issues when we go for medical. These are the some of the machine learning algorithms used in a medical. And I will touch only the glimpse of the artificial intelligence used or deep learning used in a smart agriculture. So this is the environment, their climate change, vehicle monitoring, and livestock and soil moisturizing, plant health and pest control, and water supply, crop monitoring, inventory management. All this can be done by using a deep learning and all, right? So traditional agriculture, they're doing like man here. See, the mans are going and doing now shortage of man. Then they're using now sensors for everything, drones here, and as what is the greenhouse technology, precision agriculture. So this is the thing, data collection. Then for all the applications, whatever I told previously, these are different applications where we can use in a precision agriculture. So greenhouse, how do you monitor all that things by using sensors, livestock management, then smart irrigation, then agriculture drones are now very much useful in crop monitoring, animal monitoring, building and all. So spraying, even for COVID to find out the cantonment zones and spray all that things also drones are using. So agriculture drones. Now, for example, in Karnataka, in first 2018, this farm army wall, that is one insect, it is damaged many corn, that maize crop that they detected in Chikbulapur district in 2018. It came from South Africa. Now the locust worms in Gujarat and other parts heavily came. So they developed deep learning models to control this one, drones to bring down the locust worm. There they used different deep learning models, AlexNet, ResNet, GoogleNet, VGGNet, all these are pre-trained models. They used it. So for crop pest classification, we used different models to study. So in survey, it says not only disease and weeds and all, for insects alone, 40% of annual crops are being wasted because of this pest. So how to use this? Are some of the applications where agriculture facing different problems. Here major problem is pest attack. So for that pest attack, so how we developed 3 models for using deep convolution neural network, how it will do that one. So this is the sugarcane images. From that we are using, so these steps. First, insect image acquisition and pre-processing, then you do the segmentation and feature extraction and insect safety detection. This is the insect pre-processing, right? RBG color to gray. After that, we have to segment it. For that segmentation, we are using many boundary algorithms and segmentation, image segmentation algorithms. Then from that, we are extracting the shape features, because each insect has a different shapes. Right? So that we are using different shape, area, perimeter, major axis, and electricity, circumstances, solidity, all these things. And we did the shape extraction features, oval shape or triangle shape, depend upon the insect type. Then we are detecting the insects. So these are the some insect data sets. We used this many shape features, texture, color, HOG, just extracted and given different classifiers, Navy based, SVM based classifier, ensembled classifiers, and applied a majority voting and got the results. This is the same thing. We got the good results in this. And another one is crop pest classification based on the deep convolution neural network. Using transfer learning, we have published in 2019 this paper in elsewhere. These are the insect data set we used, and we trained CNN model for these insects. This is the model, right? Convolution layer, max pooling layer, then say how many convolution layers, and we using different match pooling layers, 6 convolution layers we use, and 6 match pooling, then fully connected, and end of it we are using a softmax classifier to do the classification. And again we test our model with the pre-trained models. I told you, transfer learning models, AlexNet, ResNet, and GoogleNet, VGGNet, and we compared the learning rate should be increased, right? Setting the appropriate number of convolutions and pooling layers to improve the classification accuracy. That is the most important. So learning rate also depend upon the higher learning rate, speed up the learning process. So learning rate also we have to take into care. This is the curve which we are. Each epochs means nothing but a number of iterations. So for how many iterations you are giving the best results, that we did it, right? So with that, I think I stop here. In Indian scenario, how this agriculture and robust demand is there, scalability, affordability, sustainability. If you keep all these 5 in our mind when you develop this algorithm, our model should be robust. Our model should be scalable and extendable. It should be affordable. When you see, our farmers are facing a lot of issues with economic problems. So our model should not have to be burden for them. So now affordable, with affordable cost, if you develop any devices or any kind of instrument which will help the farmers, that economically very low in cost, then it will be. Then very important is sustainability. Not only with this, it should sustain for a longer time. Then people definitely will appreciate your approach, definitely will come. Now many startup companies are come in these 2 fields, especially in healthcare and agriculture, because as long as human is alive, he will have the health problems. So that will be survived. As long as human is alive, he need food to eat, right? So agriculture, these are very important fields. That's why I chosen these fields to explain this. So if you want to do research, you take into this one as an only stepping stone, because in 1 hour I cannot explain everything in detail. So only I gave the introduction, broad view of how machine learning can be used in a different area of medicine, biomedical and healthcare, and how this machine learning, deep learning can be applied in an agriculture sector. My area only I did for crop insect. You can take soil, you can take health monitoring and climate changing, then health of the plant and plant growth, crop classification, and like so many applications are there. So that we can take it and take it forward. So this, I hope this lecture may be a boosting point for you to proceed further. Thank you for the opportunity. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Participants, if you have any questions, type it in the chat box. Thank you, sir. Now I request Professor Anuradha, Head Department of Computer Science, to propose the vote of thanks.
At the outset, I thank the management of Indian Academy Group of Institutions for the support rendered to us in organizing this webinar. I thank Dr. Srinidhi Parthasarathy, Chief Operating Officer, Indian Academy Group of Institutions, for his moral support. I thank Dr. Jerome Xavier, Principal, Indian Academy Degree College Autonomous, for his valuable guidance and support. Heartfelt thanks to Dr. Srinivasulu Reddy, the resource person of the webinar. Sir, your session was very informative, elaborate, and well explained. Sir, I am sure your session would have triggered the minds of faculty members, researchers, and students to dig deep into DL. Thank you so much, sir. I thank and appreciate all the participants for gathering on this platform to enhance your knowledge. I thank our system manager, Mr. Chandan, for the technical support rendered. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, madam.